Opening off the album is Yankee and the Brave, which is this explosive song with these giant ass drums. LP and Killer Mike are alternating verses on here, which gives the track an incredible momentum to it, almost like it's taking place in the middle of a high-speed car chase. Mike's verse about his standoff with the police has this payoff of killing someone who had murdered a black child, which sets up for this topic to be explored on multiple songs on this album. This opener is incredible because it is setting up for more political themes and sonic styles and ambitions for the rest of the album to follow through and exceed expectations with. Legendary hip-hop producer DJ Premier is featured on this track, and his influence is immediately apparent. The droopy, errant piano keys that drive the core instrumental are great. I love the kind of sassy and fancy hook on here. Ooh la la, ah wee wee. I also love Mike's verse on here, where he's describing going from this altruistic mentality of Bruce Wayne to this anarchist, chaotic mentality of the Joker. All it takes is one bad day, and I am a sucker for shit like that. Great song. I like the in and out cuts of the sampling on this track. It has a classic hip hop feel to it while sounding fresh and up to date. Mike and LP do their thing, but 2 Chainz on this track was actually a pleasant surprise. He's able to integrate his charisma into a Run the Jewel song seamlessly, and I thought while his verse wasn't amazing, it was a nice change of pace to include on the last leg of the track. It's a solid song. This is a tale of two halves. In the first half, there's like a semi-rugged kind of Jamaican vocal sample that leads into a hard beat with some xylophone embellishments, I think, for good measure. LP's rhyme scheme in the second verse is pretty flashy as he's rhyming everything with the "ire" suffix. There's then this droning transition into a beat switch up, which is much murkier and colder, that completely darkens this track's dynamic. The duo's flows are much more aggressive and prominent and up in your face as the track coasts to a dramatic finish. It's an incredible track. Holy shit, this track is awesome. Mike's verse on the back half of the song is one I had to listen to over and over again. He's kind of describing the bad habits and contradictions of the current political and global landscape, describing how fake people can be when it comes to activism, how brainwashed people have become through social media, and just how cruel leaders use social media against its users to kind of sway them and make them much more ignorant in the process. That and how him and LP are tough sons of bitches. It is packed, alright, and the beat is thick. Thick, I tell you. Gangsta Boo is featured on this track, but not conventionally. She's more of a hype man, but I think it works well. Beat has this woozy, abrasive gradient in the background, but the number one reason to listen to this track is Killer Mike's verse about police brutality, fear-mongering, and racial injustice. You would swear that this was written recently after the murder of George Floyd, but as LP and Mike have said on Twitter, it's not. It was written last year and was more in reference to the death of Eric Garner. It goes to show you how long these problems have festered in the political ecosystem, and honestly can shock people into realizing the cruel and twisted nature of the police and the media, big name politicians, people in power, and all those who stay silent during these crises. It's a great eye-opening track that will stand the test of time until these issues are resolved. This track is a pretty bouncy, bubbly instrumental with not too much going on, so the core focus is on the artists. Pharrell and Mike's chemistry on the core refrain is superb. I also love the way it sounds. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. I hope I got that right. Which is a reference to all the president's faces on American currency who all used to own slaves. And although they have been dead for hundreds of years, they are now enslaving the current public through the warped mentalities and ethics that we call money. Zach De La Rocha caps off the track with another incredibly rageful and potent verse. It's so good. It shouldn't be this good. I like the kind of dystopian synths that are used in the production, which has me excited for Cyberpunk, by the way. LP and Mike are rapping about their come-ups, their struggles, current conflicts, and how they are not looking back in the past for anything. It is another banger. I will say that the chorus on this track is incredibly flat, but it's still a really good song. Here we have a rap rock heavy instrumental. It's not really anything different or special to really write home about compared to other rap rock outfits that I've listened to, but I think it is interesting to hear Mike and LP on a song like this. They're kind of rapping about their reputations and personal compasses about topics like sex work and even simps. I will say for me this is probably the weakest song on the record, but it was intriguing at first, but on the second listen it didn't hit as hard. Yet another track with an interesting feature combination with R&B gospel legend Mavis Staples and the frontman for Queens of the Stone Age, Josh Homme. Josh is more of a production feature on here with his guitar contribution spread throughout the entire track. He doesn't really sing on here. The instrumental here is dark and dim with these flickering electronics. LP's first verse has this like gritty poetic delivery on his verse before moving on to Mavis's chorus, which is pretty dramatic and eerie to say the least. Mike's verse is him exploring the fundamental contradictions of both himself and the religion he grew up with, leading to an interesting close of his verse when he is seemingly becoming radicalized in real time. It's so good. Closing off the record is this incredibly tense spiritual send-off with these marching keys and sax spins that are segmented throughout the verses. The song is seemingly in perspective that the duo is reflecting upon their lives before meeting their doom, so you get some revealing and painful lyrics about themselves. LP is more descriptive of how funny and kind of contradictory the world is in its progressions and regressions, while Mike is kind of talking about his real-time experience of his mother passing away 2 years ago. There's also this great line Mike says about someone who is seen by society to be another influencer like Malcolm X or MLK, but that person in the eyes of a loved one doesn't want to see them be killed or become a martyr, and I thought that was very interesting. It's an engaging 4 minutes of rawness and realness before the track segues into like a Yankee and the Brave theme song, which actually loops the entire album back over again. It's a fantastic way to close off the record. This album is electrifying. It's really fun to listen to. It's rebellious and intricate in nature with how dense and how these two navigate through these incredibly heavy-handed political topics. The duo have fantastic chemistry with each other and this unbreakable sense of brotherhood that you hear in each track that it's so satisfying to listen to. Not much I can say. It's another great Run the Jewels record, and I hope to hear some original tracks for their contribution to the Cyberpunk soundtrack. It's only 3 months away! I'd give it a